Now, the first thing I want to do is import my system.media namespace into my workflow. I hit import below the workflow and I search for system.media. I select it and it's imported. Hit Ctrl S to save and we are good. Pin this down. Next, we create some sort of variable or arguments to store our SoundPlayer class. I would want that to be an argument because the SoundPlayer would come from outside of this workflow. So I'm going to call that an argument. I'm going to call that SoundPlayer. Now the direction is going to be in or out because this SoundPlayer is going to be manipulated inside of the controller and updated inside of the controller. So I'm going to make it in or out, and for argument type I'm going to hit the drop down, and what I want to do is select the SoundPlayer class. I browse for types and I look for system.media.soundplayer. I select system.media.soundplayer class and I am good to go. I hit Ctrl S to save. Now, time to initialize the SoundPlayer argument. I'm going to have an assign. I drag in an assign and I'm going to set the SoundPlayer arguments to the value of new SoundPlayer, just as ChatGPT has given to me. And in parentheses, I'm going to place the path to my SoundPlayer, to my .wav file. So let's go grab the path to our .wav file. And I'm going to pick one of the sound files here. So I'm going to copy the paths to this file. So let's say I'm going to use the background sound, shift, copy, and copy as path. And I head back to my UiPath project. And I would love to place the path here. Now, because this sound file actually lives inside of my project, there is no need to explicitly declare the full path. I could just actually start from data because the sound file exists in the root directory of my project in data/sound, and the name of the sound file is background.wav. I hit save and I'm okay. Okay, I got a bit of feedback from my students, so let's take a look at this. The SoundPlayer on your left hand side of this assign should be different from the SoundPlayer on the right hand side. If you take a close look at this, the SoundPlayer here begins with a lowercase and the SoundPlayer on the right begins with an uppercase. Please do not mix things up. Just for a bit of clarification, the SoundPlayer on the right comes from the system.media namespace in the import menu. On the other hand, the SoundPlayer with the lowercase comes from the SoundPlayer on the argument menu. Okay, let's correct this to avoid conflict and confusion. I'm going to put an underscore just in front of the argument name, SoundPlayer. Oops, now you can see I have an error. The reason why I have this error is because UiPath Studio is confused. It thinks the SoundPlayer on the right is the same with the SoundPlayer on the left. So let's fix this. I minimize my arguments pane and I head back to the value section and I correct this with a capital S. And we are good. Hit Ctrl S to save, and that's fine. Now let's call one of the methods of the SoundPlayer class. To do that, I'm going to be using the Invoke method. In my activity pane, I search for Invoke method and I bring it into my sequence. Now, for the target object, I expand on this and I'm going to be referencing the underscore SoundPlayer initialize class. I hit save. And for the method name, I would be using play looping. play looping is the name of the method coming from Microsoft documentation. I copy this, I head back to my studio, and I place this in the method name. Looking good, no errors. Time to test this. I make sure I have a breakpoint here and I hit debug. Sweet! It works fine as is expected. Now we're going to repeat the same thing for other methods. But first, I would love to rename this to play a loop sound. And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste. I'm going to call this play. I'm going to call this stop a sound. And I'm going to change the method to stop. I'm going to paste again. I'm going to call this play sound once. Play sound once. And I'm going to set the method name to play. Looking good. We have all the methods implemented. Just in case you were wondering where I got the word stop and play from, if you revisit the Microsoft documentation again, you should see that play and stop are actually method names in the SoundPlayer class. Let's head back to our project and continue on. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is add a switch so that we could switch between these methods. To do that, the first thing I want to do is go to my arguments panel, and I would want to create a switch number argument, and I'm going to make it an int and set the argument type to integer. Hit Ctrl S to save and pin this down. The next thing I want to do right now is bring in a switch activity. I'm going to drag the switch activity right into the workflow, and in the expression, I'm going to pass in the switch number argument. Now, what I want to say is I'm going to create a case. I'm going to add a new case and say where the switch number is 0, I want to play the loop sound, and where the switch number is 1, I would want to play a sound once. And lastly, where the switch number is 2, I would want to stop the sound. And I hit Ctrl S to save, and it looks nice.